My Lords, it was a very great privilege to chair the committee during this inquiry, and I'm grateful for the kind remarks that have been made by noble lords. But the process must have addled my brain to some extent, because I had absolutely convinced myself that I'd put my name down to speak in this debate, only to realise too late that I hadn't. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to make a brief contribution in the gap. I'd like to use part of that, of course, to thank the clerks and officer support that we had during the inquiry, in particular to our clerk, Kate Wallace, to our policy analyst, Andrea Ninomiya, Sarah Carrington, who organised the committee operations so very well, Dervin Merktish, who reached out to our global press audience, and of course I should mention the people we take for granted to some extent, the engagement team, and particularly the technology team. Have now realised after 3 years nearly of chairing the committee that actually we do take for granted the fact of all these wonderful people organising our room and our technology and everything. We never actually thank them, so I'd like to do that today. And of course our specialist advisor, external specialist advisor, Dr. Lucy Montague, who's such an expert on this subject and made a real difference to our deliberations. My Lords, it is only a short contribution. The contents of the report and of the government's response have been aired very thoroughly, I think, in the course of the debate. So perhaps I could turn myself briefly to a slightly different topic. The Right Reverend Prelate, the Bishop of St Albans, referred to the degradation of the High Street consequent on the presence of so many betting shops. I was watching BBC News only a few weeks ago when they did a report, in fact spread over several bulletins, of even greater degradation on the high streets, the takeover of many of our high streets, not necessarily in pleasant county towns, but in many of our cities, the takeover of the high street by so-called barber shops which never have any customers, and mini markets that never sell anything, or they do rather, because if you want to go and get some illegal cigarettes, no tax paid, obviously that's taken for granted, very often imported cigarettes with no recognisable branding that could contain anything at all, then of course that is the place to go. And you'll get them for a couple of pounds a packet, way below the price that you'd pay for a legitimate packet of cigarettes. That is their main business, that and money laundering. And of course the fact that they are so inherently profitable on the proceeds of criminal activity means that no legitimate business can compete with them in terms of paying rent. We see this in the heart of London. You see premises of this character even in Oxford Street, which is meant to be our showcase high street, our showcase retail street for the nation. Now, the news bulletin on the BBC showed raids being carried out by local trading standards officers, but really, I think, behind them were HM Revenue and Customs and the National Crime Agency to some extent. So the authorities are aware, because these are only the surface, they're only the epiphenomena of a network that brings crime and misery internationally. So I hope very much that when the noble Lord the Minister comes to reply, he will be able to say that the government is really cognizant of what is now a very serious threat to many of our high streets, and that action is going to be taken across a broad front, not simply occasionally for the benefit of TV cameras. I don't mean to deprecate in any sense the effort that was being made to bring enforcement on that particular occasion. But I hope that this will be carried out on a broad front, because it is a profound threat to our high street, and one that sadly the committee didn't in fact have an opportunity to explore, so I'm glad to mention it now.